Welcome to Deep Thought. Pay attention even to small things. I'm gonna tell you what. Pay attention to small things, little things, tiny things. And when I say things, not just mere objects or just like nuances when you come across a person, ticks, whatever, situations. Let me use a situation thing. Okay, like say you hear about some weird spiritual cult or something, and you just like, nah, they small, I ain't gonna pay attention to them. But it becomes bigger later on. Like I've noticed like different movements because anybody who's followed me know I pay attention to small subcultures, but also pay attention to movements because they become small and everything. Anything that you see that emerges now has always existed. I use the example of the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam. Now, people really heard about them in the 50s, late 50s, through the efforts of Malcolm X. But they had been in existence since the 30s. You know, the government was aware of them, very aware of them. But you got a lot of movements out there. It might seem small, or you might encounter somebody who's a part of a small group, but you never know when it becomes large. Especially in the age of social media. Somebody with some like fringe ideas or something. You know, you might not think much. How they sound crazy. They small, but then something happens, you look up, and all of a sudden they have a major movement. Especially in the age of social media. Because one of the things that social media has done is given a voice to somebody, no matter what. You can call it crazy, you can call it whatever you want, but it gives an ordinary person a voice. Somebody just needs a phone. Think about something. I want y'all to think about it. A small movement can become a major movement just through a phone. Just through a phone. You don't need to go through anybody. It's just a matter of who it vibrates with, you know? And see, that's movements, but when you're paying attention to people, pay attention to small things like what they might say, what they might do when you're around them, because it can give you a clue as to their true face, as to what they want, you know? And definitely, it could be, like I say, it could be anything. Like that sound in your car, it might seem small at first, but it can become major. You know, because the thing is, something small like a seed, you might plant that seed and it's small at first and it sprouts. You don't think anything, but it can grow into a big tree. Pay attention to that. Now, it's not saying focus on that. Let me be clear, because you got to focus on like what's immediate, but pay attention and sit back, because there's a lot of stuff going on now, but I saw years ago. Because I paid attention to the situations, the movements and everything. Like I was looking back and I was like, wow, everybody's talking about this thing now. But I saw that years ago. You know, I'll get a little political. There's a big talk about Christian nationalism and everything, but I had paid attention to that years ago. In fact, oh man. Had this book right here, American Theocracy. And when was it published? Let me see something. I mean, they got dust in this mother. It was, published in 2006. 2006. You know, so, I pay attention to stuff. Let me put this back here. Shoot, you pay attention to stuff like movements. That's a major movement now, regardless of which side you're on. But I was seeing that years ago, over a decade ago. But a lot of people weren't paying attention. But you learn to do that, like movements, people, whatever, just little things. It might be something little. Like, I'm known for talking about relationships, but okay, when you meet a member of the opposite sex, it might be just something little that they show, something small that they said that could be a problem later on. Like you listen to everything, you don't necessarily react to it, but you listen, you sit back and be like, oh, okay. let me put that away. Like when I encounter people, I talk to them. Whatever they show, I pay attention to it. In fact, that's why, let me, like even, I would say a 70% chance somebody, how they dress, how they style their hair gives an indication as to their background, to their ideas. I'm saying 70 because you never know for sure. You never know for sure. Indeed, the only way to know for sure is to be in an intimate relationship with someone and the moments they take their mask off. And let me just, on a tangent, because you know how we flow here. That's the only way to really know someone, because people show different faces. But then people can't quite hide where they really are and what their intention is. You know? You know, they'll show something no matter what. So you pay attention to it. You pay attention. They might say, make some offhand comment about something. You're like, They made a comment in response to this situation. You just pay attention, you know? Little stuff, when you're going through neighborhoods or you're around, well, especially, I ain't gonna say neighborhoods. Well, yeah, neighborhoods. You're going through a neighborhood, you notice certain facial expressions that seem to be the same on people. Could be a bad neighborhood or something. You know, this is how, and you know, this is how I can recognize different movements, different nuances between groups. Like, for example, a few weeks ago, I talked about different subcultures within the Black community. And you know, you always get somebody say, oh, it's all the same. I was like, first of all, I could tell they want some troll shit. But second of all, a lot of people think, especially outside the community, they'll think, wow, they're all the same. I was like, no, this little small stuff, like a lot of times I can tell, like, and it's very slight, like outside the Black community, because I've dealt with Korean women, I've dealt with Japanese women. And so it's like, you know, there's some slight, like somebody might put them in the same room, you can't tell, but you put them in the same room with me and I'm like, oh, Korean, Japanese, Chinese. And it'd be very, very subtle, it's hard to explain. It'd be very subtle, but you can tell the differences. And like, getting back to the Black community, you know, somebody might see all, you know, outside the community might see all Black folks, but then it's like, nah, they bougie, they hood, they one of those shea butter types. You know, like that, or even they not, oh, well, they are foundational Black American, but they're from Nigeria. Something like that, you start looking, but it'd be like little subtle stuff, you know, little subtle stuff. So, I mean, you want to do that, get in the habit of like learning the little small, it could be something small. Like, you know, I talk about classes overall, but it'd be like small differences, you know, like I can look at somebody like, well, let's use the white community. I can look at somebody and it'd be something very small. I say, nah, they more upper class. Nah, they more trailer park, you know? But if you look, if you ain't thinking about it, you just see just one group of people, but it'd be like the small nuances and you'd be seeing stuff. So anyway, it was just something to pay attention to. So that's all I have for today. I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.